Coming up on WFT's First of Five, the city of Gainesville's fall in revenue is cutting into prevention efforts to protect kids. What this means for prevention and protection in Gainesville.
And our clear blue skies were replaced with smoke. We'll talk about what's causing these conditions straight ahead. First at 5 starts right now.
From the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications, you're watching WUFT News.
The city of Gainesville is facing a shortfall of over $1 million. This is First at 5. I'm Rafael de los Santos.
And I'm Charlize Ramos. WFT's Kennedy Chambers, who spoke with the City of Gainesville city leadership about recent budget cuts that could potentially affect the resources dedicated to gun violence. Kennedy, this means some changes for prevention efforts.
Gainesville Regional Utilities stopped payments for shared services, leaving the city to look to contingency funds to fill the gap.
Gainesville City Commission's Finance Committee held a meeting to address its $1.4 million shortfall. On February 1st, GRU stopped paying the city for services the utility received in fiscal year 2022. In order to combat the shortfall, City Manager Cynthia Curry recommended rebalancing the budget using the city's contingency funds and set-asides. This includes $150,000 for gun violence.
These aren't easy cuts, but every cut beyond this point is going to be harder and harder and harder because we made a lot of the big cuts last year that were a little easier. This year it's going to be much deeper and much more pain will be felt.
Law enforcement declared gun violence a crisis in Gainesville last year. Commissioner Brian Eastman says cutting the budget means less focus on solving the issue.
We're going to have to lean on our outside partners like the School Board of Alachua County, like the Alachua County Commission, to find ways that we can all work together on this. But it certainly hurts our ability to reduce gun violence within our community and really work with the youth that are moving into places where they might be turning to drugs or crime.
In addition to the cuts from gun violence prevention set-asides, the recommendation also includes cuts to set-asides from at-risk youth, as well as operational and personnel contingency funds.
We've received an email from Mayor Harvey Ward stating that it is important for partner institutions and nonprofits to work with the city to help with the shortfall. Commissioners will vote on the recommendation on February 15th. Live in the studio, Kennedy Chambers, WUFT News.
The Gainesville Regional Utilities Authority will meet this evening to discuss reducing expenses and scheduled payments. The GRU Authority is considering changing its current agreements and is discussing a plan to change relationships and cost-effective services. The agenda says the Vice Chair is discussing payments for the government services contribution.
Governor Ron DeSantis announced a proposal to keep Florida streets clean and safe by combating homelessness. WUFT's Alex Land is live in the studio to highlight how this proposal could impact the homeless population in Florida.
Governor DeSantis says the goal of the proposal is community safety in Florida. The proposal has 4 major elements to accomplish this goal. The proposal prohibits camping on city streets, sidewalks, and camping inside parks, creates state tools to ensure that local governments enforce the proposal, increases funding for homeless shelters while requiring occupants to use provided workforce services and not use drugs, and increases funding for substance abuse and mental health treatment. We spoke with 2 Marion County organizations working to combat homelessness to see how the proposal may impact them. Over 30,000. According to Florida Health Charts, that's the number of homeless people in Florida in 2023. Governor DeSantis' proposal is attempting to lower that number. Project Hope Executive Director April McDonald says the workplace services element of the proposal is critical for the homeless population.
Why can't they just go to work? Okay, so you can imagine the challenges that we all have, just if our power's out one day. When somebody is in their car and they have their children and, they can't think of it. You can't go do an interview if you don't have somewhere to shower, you don't have appropriate clothing, you don't have daycare for your child.
SMA Healthcare CEO Ivan Kosemi says the reduction of drug use could decrease the number of people placed in homelessness situations.
I think if you're dealing with that for a long period of time, you end up, burning bridges, for lack of a better word, with the community, with your family, and you end up not having those supports that are there for you. And sometimes, not all the time, sometimes you end up in a homeless kind of situation where nobody's willing to step up and help anymore.
April says that the homeless population is still a part of our community and needs our help.
Ivan says that this plan is definitely a win.
Ivan and April hope this plan increases awareness for the problem of homelessness in Florida. Live in the studio, Alex Lands, WUFT News.
Florida Supreme Court heard arguments earlier today in Tallahassee about voters deciding to guarantee abortions, not lawmakers. This comes a year after Governor DeSantis passed a 6-week abortion ban, but will only take effect if Florida upholds the 15-week ban passed 2 years ago. The language of the amendment is up for debate, with opponents saying it is misleading, while advocates say it's clear. The amendment will allow abortions to be legal until the baby can live.
Smoke that's blanketing our area is coming from a nearly 200-acre controlled burn in Clay County. We've received several phone calls into our newsroom about smoke filling up area all across Gainesville. UF forecaster Derrah is tracking the smoke and winds that are bringing it our way.
Here's a live look looking east towards Century Tower. Now, if you look at the top of your screen, right above the Campus Cam banner, you can see the tiniest hint of blue. But other than that, we're being blanketed by this plume of smoke, and that's because we're getting those winds from the north, and that's bringing in that smoke from Clay County, which is to the north of us. So hopefully this all clears out by tonight so we can all look at that rocket launch. Right now, if we weren't having that smoke, we would be seeing clear skies. Most of that activity is to our west, closer to that area of low pressure. Now, as those winds move in from the north, that's causing these temperatures to feel a little bit cooler in the upper 50s and low 60s. We'll talk about when those winds will shift and what that means for our temperatures coming up.
This morning, officials sent out the all clear to the University of Florida, deciding the package was not a threat. Officials say a suspicious package was reported at Peabody Hall on UF's campus. Alachua County Sheriff's Office bomb squad and UF Police Department evacuated the building. No one was hurt during the evacuation, according to officials. Normal operations resumed after the area was cleared.
Today, we remember a fallen deputy who lost his life while responding to a wellness check. Marion County Sheriff's Officer's K-9 Deputy Brian Litz died 20 years ago. While responding, Litz was met with a handgun from 74-year-old Ivan Gotham, who then shot and killed Litz, according to officials. MCPS says Litz was a dedicated officer and cherished member of the community. Officials asked to keep Litz and his family in your thoughts as you remember the sacrifice he made on duty.
Pages are still unturned in the conflict of book bans in Alachua County Public Schools. New procedures for book bans were announced this morning. In a school board workshop, ACPS outlined the new procedures. In the new procedures, school principals will send the school's objection to the district committee. That committee will then convene on the second and fourth Thursday of each month to hear all objections. In the new process, book challenges will be reviewed at the public meeting on the district level, addressing a major complaint against the lack of opportunity for public comment during these committee discussions. Alachua County Superintendent Shane Andrews is getting a raise. The school board approved the increase at a pay meeting last night. Board members increased his salary to around $180,000 a year. That's about a $7,000 increase. Andrews had originally asked for a salary of $200,000.
Today, 36 Alachua County spellers competed to see who was the county's best. Daniel Spelling Bee ended less than an hour ago. WUFT's Natasha Holt has been at the competition since this afternoon. Natasha, only one student is moving to the next round.
From 36 to 1, and that one student will now head to the regional competition in Jacksonville. 36 students came from 33 elementary and middle schools from across Alachua County. They prepared by studying a list that they were given, but some of the words came straight out of the dictionary. Today's winner will now head to the regional competition in Jacksonville, and if they make it through, then they'll head to the National Scripps Spelling Bee in Washington, D.C. We're working to learn the name of the winning student and the word that sealed their victory. When we have that information, we'll bring it right to you. But reporting live from Idlewild Elementary, Natasha Holt, WUFT News.
Coming up on WFT's First at 5, how you can stay safe during tornadoes and severe weather.
And a new organization in Marion County dedicated to serving and protecting domestic violence survivors. What this means for survivors when First at 5 returns.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
Victims of domestic violence in North Central Florida now have a new place to get assistance.
Community Action Stops Abuse, or CASA, extended services to Marion County. WFT's Kirsten Maselka attended an event announcing the organization's commitment to Marion County domestic abuse survivors. Kirsten, CASA Marion aims to give survivors the resources that they need.
Yes, I spoke with CASA's CEO today, and she says she is very hopeful about the impact CASA will have on the community. CASA has been providing a safe space for victims of domestic violence in Pinellas County, Florida since 1977. Last month, the program began its expansion into Marion County. Sheriff Billy Woods says domestic violence in Marion County is a growing problem.
35% of violent crimes is domestic violence. There is no other call that even comes close to battery of domestic violence.
The community recently lost its only certified shelter, so CASA stepped in. CASA CEO Lariana Forsyth has worked with the organization for 6 years. She says domestic violence isn't talked about enough.
Domestic violence is a very underreported crime. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men will experience domestic violence at some point in their life.
Her mission? To raise awareness so victims know they are not alone.
When they are ready to make that call, they know who to call and ask for assistance and help.
Forsyth announced that the county will soon finalize a location for the new shelter. The 24-hour safe house is estimated to hold 30 to 40 beds and open in the next few months. This change will more than double the amount of space offered in CASA's current temporary shelter. If you're in need of assistance, call Marion County's 24/7 hotline at 352-722-CASA.
Manatee protection efforts are going swimmingly. The governor's office announced that in 2023, Florida manatees had the lowest mortality rate since 2017. Governor Ron DeSantis discussed funding to protect manatees and improve water quality today at Blue Springs State Park in Volusia County. The governor's office says over $50 million has been invested in manatee programs and over $1 billion in water quality improvements since 2019.
Florida ranks last among states in nursing exam passing rates. The Florida Center for Nursing published its 2023 NCLEX report Tuesday and said Florida had the greatest number of test takers in the nation. But the report says the state's passing rate was almost 77% below the national average. The release states that the evaluation of NCLEX pass rates is a critical step in assessing the state's nursing workforce because newly licensed nurses often fill vacant positions.
It's Severe Weather Awareness Week, and since Monday, we've been telling you about all the weather elements you should be on the lookout for to stay safe. Today's discussion is about tornado watches and warnings. Tornadoes like the one you see behind me can be produced from a severe thunderstorm. The National Weather Service says Florida ranks 5th nationally when it comes to the average number of tornadoes per year. That's why emergency officials say paying attention to watches and warnings is critically important. When it comes to a tornado, you're asked to be on the lookout for strong, consistent rotation in a cloud base, loud, continuous roar or rumble that doesn't fade quickly like thunder, and whirling dust or debris on the ground under that cloud base.
They didn't even make it out of the 50s and 60s. We're supposed to be in the 70s right now, but soon we'll surpass the 70s. We'll talk about when I see you on the other side of the break.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
Here's a live shot looking west toward the Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. Now that smoke is looking a lot less pronounced than it did about an hour or so ago, starting to clear out, which is good news for that rocket launch tonight. Temperatures right now in the upper 50s. Now if it wasn't for all that smoke, we would be seeing clear blue skies this evening. You can see we're dry across the southeast, and that's thanks to all of that drier air digging in, and that bulk of the activity is to our west. So that's where we're seeing a lot more moisture highlighted in this green and white shading, and all of this orange is just that drier and much cooler air mass we have parked right over our area, but that's not going to last for long. Right now temperatures are in the upper 50s, 61 in High Springs, 63 in Bronson, 56 in Stark, and 56 also in Jacksonville. Under those clear skies tonight, look how quickly we drop down into the 40s overnight tonight, which those clear skies are also good news for the Falcon 9 launch tonight. It'll be the PACE mission, and that's going to evaluate the health of our oceans and the distribution of the phytoplankton. So 95% probability that it will take off. You might not be able to see it depending on that smoke in your area. Tomorrow though, you'll be waking up to temperatures in the 30s and low 40s. Further back toward the Big Ben, you might see some patchy frost if you're in temperatures in the mid 30s, but other than that, we're just looking at cool conditions tomorrow. Now here's where our warming trend comes in. High pressure will shift our winds to be out of the east, and that's really going to warm us up. By Sunday, we'll see those winds out of the south, and then those temperatures will really rise ahead of our next cold front, bringing our rain chances Sunday night into Monday, depending on how slow that moves, because we don't have that model agreement right now. We'll still have to fine tune the timing of that. Could see a couple of showers into Tuesday. Thursday, we're looking at high temperatures in the low 70s and upper 60s along the coast. Now, today's high was in the low 60s. Will be over 15 degrees warmer by Sunday. So the rest of this week, with that easterly flow, we could see some increased moisture, patchy fog Friday and Saturday, and then temperatures climb through the weekend.
Coming up next on WFT News, it's a massive day for Florida football and for football programs around the country. Today is National Signing Day, and high school athletes nationwide put pen to paper. We'll have a full recap of this and plenty more after the break, so stay tuned.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
Welcome into a massive day of sports. I'm Bradley Shimel. It's a huge day for Florida football and for college football programs across the country. WUFT's Daniel Haviv tells us more.
Today is National Signing Day, a day high school athletes will forever remember as the moment they took that next step. Down the road at Newberry High School, three-star wide receiver David Schmidt put pen to paper as a preferred walk-on at the University of Florida. Schmidt is a 5'10", 175-pound receiver that had offers and interest from schools like Brown, Dartmouth, and FIU, but he ultimately decided to stay home in Gainesville. Schmidt looks forward to putting in the work once camp starts.
Like whenever I'm playing football with my friends, I always say, these are the guys I want to be. These are the guys I train to be. I train night and day to be like these guys, and I finally have the chance to step in their shoes and be who they've shown me to be.
Come this fall, Schmidt will be a part of the 2024 Florida football team. Gators football made the majority of their signing moves back in December on early signing day. The class was headlined by 5 stars DJ Lagway and LJ McCray. The 2024 class has taken shape as one of the most complete in the nation. Head coach Billy Napier believes the future is promising for the program.
I do think we've added some really good players to our team since the last time we were in front of you, and certainly a lot of staff changes and new hires.
In the studio, Daniel Haviv, WUFT News.
Along with David Schmidt, a few other local players made things official earlier today. Eastside High School athletes Joshua Benjamin and Christopher Bishop each signed with their respective programs, with Benjamin signing with John C. Smith and Bishop signing with St. Thomas University. Meanwhile, the Purple Palace at Gainesville High School was absolutely rocking last night as the boys basketball district playoffs tipped off. Gainesville hosted Leon in the quarterfinals, and things got out of hand from the jump. The Hurricanes, pictured in white, put on a defensive clinic as they held the Lions to 2 points. 2 points in the entire first quarter. And while scoring came in bunches for the Canes, it was Anthony Levon who made his presence felt the most on both sides of the court. The benches were cleared very early on as the Hurricanes won 62-22. Despite dominating in the first round, head coach Mike Barnes says the team still sees their record as 0-0.
It's a big win for us in the rankings and to try to give us a little bit of boost, for the state playoffs. Hopefully if we can get in there. But yeah, I'm just really proud of the guys.
Gainesville will continue their quest towards a district championship tomorrow night when they travel to Tallahassee to face the Lincoln Trojans. Tip-off for that game is scheduled for 7 p.m. Taking a look at a few other district playoff games from last night, Eastside defeated Sewanee 63-55 at home. They will travel to Palatka for the semifinals. Meanwhile, Trenton bested Bronson 53-48, and they will face Chiefland in the next round. Finally, Dixie County got the win against Wildwood, but they will have their work cut out for them as they face the 23-2 Williston Devils. All these games will take place on Thursday night. Like the famous Rocky Balboa once said, it ain't about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. Well, that's the mentality for the Florida women's basketball team as they prepare to shake off a brutal 40-point loss in Baton Rouge against LSU. Florida will host Arkansas tomorrow night, and they sure could use a win. The Gators have lost 6 of their last 8 games, and they are currently ranked 11th in SEC standings. With only 8 games left in the regular season, the time is now for this team to step up and right the ship. Tip-off for this matchup is scheduled for 6 p.m. At the professional level last night, it was the classic Sunshine State showdown between the Miami Heat and Orlando Magic. Yeah, last night wasn't very magical for the boys in white and blue, those Orlando Magic, as the Heat beat the Magic 121-94. Newly acquired Terry Rozier had the game of his life as a member of the Miami Heat, recording 18 points and 7 assists. Meanwhile, Jimmy Butler thought it was the playoffs for a brief moment as he took over down the stretch. Orlando snapped a 3-game win streak with the loss. They'll be back in action tomorrow night against the Spurs, who will travel to Miami tonight for a 7:30 game. And one final note, Hawthorne High School girls basketball will host the 1A District 6 semifinals tonight against Bell. Tip-off is scheduled for 6 p.m.
Thanks, Bradley, and what a day for these young women to play such an important game. February 7th marks National Girls and Women in Sports Day.
Good thing the game's inside because it sure is cold out there.
Well, thankfully there's a warm-up coming soon. We'll be slightly above average tomorrow, and then temperatures climb near 80 by the weekend.
Thanks, Derrah. BBC World News is next, and the PBS NewsHour is coming up at 7.
Your Florida news is always on at WFT.org. Have a good night.